Parents, be warned. The government is launching a new offensive, or they call it new, to push radical sexuality and gender ideology at your children. And over the next couple of days, I'm going to give you a quick snapshot of our analysis of the material. Now, if you're a parent or caregiver with children at school, you'll definitely want to take notice of this one. So radical gender theory is being indoctrinated into children as young as 5. Kids are being told that they can choose their sex and that mummy and daddy may treat them as a boy. Well, maybe because they were born a boy, but mum and dad may be wrong. And actually there's nothing new or fresh or improved about this new resource. It's actually the same curriculum that was released in 2020 and that we reviewed with this report. Now, the Relationships and Sexuality Education Guidelines, or RSE for short, were released by the Ministry of Education, as I said, in September 2020. And here's a clip from the full episode of Family Matters, which you can watch on our website. But it gives you an idea of what the government and the Ministry of Education is telling schools to indoctrinate your child with.
It should be addressed by their preferred names and pronouns. Schools need to ensure that students can access toilets and changing rooms that align with their gender identification. Trans students should not be required to use a gender-neutral toilet rather than the male or female toilets of their choice. Teachers should challenge sex norms. For example, the assumption that sex characteristics at birth are always male or female. And teachers should challenge homophobia, transphobia, sexism, gender binaries, even interrogate the ongoing effects of colonisation. They want 7 and 8-year-old children to be able to identify gender stereotypes, understand the difference between gender and sex, and know that there are diverse gender and sexual identities in society. They also teach that there are more than 2 genders, labelling the assumption that there are only 2 genders, girl, boy, or man, woman, incorrect. But it's not only in health classes. They want this ideology, this indoctrination, in all parts of the primary school classroom, all subjects. In science, your child will consider how biological sex has been constructed and measured over time, and consider variations in puberty, including the role of hormone blockers. Do you really want your primary age child being indoctrinated on how biological sex has been constructed and the role of hormone blockers? Were you thinking about these issues when you were at primary school? In technology, your child will identify how gender expectations are embedded in technology. For example, in the design and style of power tools and other tools. Yep, those annoying male and female plugs and connections. And they will explore symbols linked to the gay and transgender rights movement. In the social sciences, your child will be encouraged to explore the development and persistence of gender stereotypes, for example, by researching the Me Too movement. In English, engage in dialogue and debate in the context of provocative online posts linked to relationships, gender and sexuality.
Well, you can certainly see how deeply embedded they want this ideology, not just in kind of sex education classes, but right across the curriculum. And these are the words that they want your primary age children to know and understand and to start using. Asexual, bisexual, cisgender, heteronormativity, intersex, non-binary, pansexual, sex assigned at birth, transitioning, and transsexual. Yep. Apparently, those words are more important than reading, writing, and arithmetic. I'm not sure parents would agree with that. You know, I think the worst aspect, though, is that teachers are encouraged by the government and the Ministry of Education to keep a child's mental health issues secret from their parents by allowing the child to adopt a new persona, a new gender whilst at school, including the use of preferred pronouns, without necessarily having to inform the parents that there are identity issues. As you can see there, they specifically advise teachers to ask the young people, check with the student about the name and or pronouns they want to be used in the records that parents or caregivers may see, as they might be different to the ones they use at school. You know, that's keeping parents out of the loop. It's encouraging kids to be secret about changing their sex. These government-sanctioned programs targeted at children as young as 5 undermine the role and value of parents. They push a radical leftist sexuality and gender ideology, and the resources fail to take into account the emotional and physical development of each child and the values of that particular family. Do you know for sure what your children are being taught at school regarding whether they're male or female, or a boy or a girl? Does the school's current sex education curricula cover gender identity or transgender identification at all? Have you reviewed those materials? And if, when you request information or ask for copies of the curriculum from the school, you get mucked around or they refuse to show you the resources, that's an immediate red flag. And look, the educators, the ministry will hate this presentation that you're watching because they really don't want you as a parent to be fully aware of what's happening. Otherwise, they would have consulted with you in developing it, but they didn't, did they? Make sure you watch tomorrow's episode because I'm going to cover what family planning wants to teach your children if the school lets them into the school. You'll be shocked again. And then in part 3, I'll cover what you can do to protect your family and your children and your community. And don't forget, you can watch the full episode of Family Matters on our website, familyfirst.nz. Talk to you tomorrow.